All right, we're rolling on this April 20th, 420 edition of Around the Sailing World, and luckily we've got Pedro Eisler here teed up, ready to play some tunes. Where you checking it? What is the studio today?
This is the Eisler Sailing headquarters in San Diego, California, just up the street from Chris Snow's house. And it's my dining room, which is now my office and studio, recording studio.
You got a little proa in the background. You can take that thing off to Hawaii.
Yeah, this is well, green screen blues. Gary knows about this. Yeah, that's a proper Polynesian boat that was all tied up wrong and stuff. And then I had a guy come over Christmas who knew about proas, and he set it all up, and he was really into it. He showed me how to tack it and jibe it. And then the parakeet attacked it, and it untied all the knots. So I got to get him back again.
You got a parakeet that play? You sit on your shoulder when you play?
Yeah, she'll come over if she's outside right now because she's louder than the guitar.
So before all this COVID shutdown, what kind of sailing were you doing?
I was right before I was in Antigua down in Super Yacht World racing J-boats on the large Svea. Unfortunately, we didn't get to sail in the first race and took ourselves and one other boat out, infamously. But prior to that, I was doing some West Coast stuff with my good friend Roy Pat Disney and Robbie Haynes and the gang on Pyewacket. They have a new turbo Volvo 70 that's very cool.
What's the first race for them once they get it going?
Well, it keeps getting put back. It was going to be, big race was Tahiti. That was the main focus, and it's a cool race. I mean, the West Coast races, long races, are usually down to Mexico, which are downwind, or Hawaii, which is downwind, or Tahiti. That's the ultimate. But they hadn't done the LA to Tahiti race in the off year from Transpac in decades, and they were going to redo it this year, but that's off. So who knows what's next? I'm sure none of us have any idea except the virtual racing.
On the routing of that Tahiti race, how many days was it of just glory sailing to that island?
You know, it's interesting. It's kind of like Transpac. For the first bit, you reach out of the northwesterlies if it's a typical race, and then you get into the VMG run. But then to Tahiti's, you got to cross the get your graduation of Neptune's graduation across the equator. So you get doldrums. So that's anything for Jonathan, and those of you that have sailed across the equator know that could be anything. And then it's a sort of a beam reach, slightly ahead of beam reach for the last third of the race. So it's quite different, but be pretty wet on a Volvo 70.
How many days?
They were looking at like 11-ish.
That was pretty quick.
Yeah, the mod 70s were looking, like at 8.
Nice. All right, well, let's you got some instruments there ready to tee up. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna play the proa. That's good. No, I play the upper shroud of the proa. So happy day after Bicycle Day, happy 420, and this is for everybody sitting around in limbo. I promised to play more than Keith did on the One World show.
Or Charlie Watt.
Yeah, Charlie was cool. Sitting here in limbo, waiting for the tide to roll. Sitting here in limbo, but I know I've got to roll. Putting up resistance, but I know that my fate will lead me on. Sitting here in limbo, like a bird without a home. Sitting here in limbo, but putting up resistance, but I know that my fate will lead me on. I don't know what life will show me, but I know what I've seen. I don't know what life will take me. I know where I've been, tried my hand at love and friendship. All that is past and gone. This little boy is moving on. Sitting here in limbo, but I know I got to go. Sitting here in limbo, I got to roll. I'm gonna be Ronnie, okay? Sitting here in limbo, waiting for the dice to roll. Sitting here in limbo, we got some time to search our soul. Well, they're putting up resistance, but I know that my fate will lead me on. Yes, they're putting up resistance, but I know that my fate will lead me on. Sitting here in limbo. There you go.
I think there's Grammy talk in the men's room.
Yeah, right.
Nice. Who else here plays any instruments? Not me.
I do the Charlie Watt.
Anybody else who? Come on, Jonathan. You must play something up there. Yeah, sort of.
Jonathan plays. We've jammed.
How about Ed? You seem like a.
I'm not quite ready to go public. Although there has been a little bit extra time for practicing lately.
Yeah, I bet. And how much you playing a day now, Peter?
I play about 2 cups of coffee in the morning and then a couple of breaks during the day.
Yeah.
It depends if I get inspired. There's so much music on too, whether friends are doing live shows, and that One World thing was cool. And, depending on who you like, everybody's doing sort of feature stuff. So it's sort of like watching golf. After you watch a little bit of music, you want to go back and play some more. So I probably play an hour and a half a day.
Nice. And so you've been busy doing webinars and for the American Sailing Association, things like that too. So that's keeping you plenty busy, I guess.
Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, we had some sort of pre-produced webinars in the can that we rolled out right when lockdown occurred. And then we came up with the idea of just doing something like this, a little bit lower key. And thanks to working with Gary for many years in TV, I knew enough to be able to kind of do this side of the thing. And so we're just starting this every Wednesday series. The first one was last week with Chris Bedford, my good friend and guru meteorologist. And I'm doing the next one on expedition software. And then I've got our good friend Gary Skip Novak coming on for the third one. So that's been fun every Wednesday, and it's live TV on the internet.
Skip Novak, he'll be great. He seems to get better with age.
The modern day Magellan. I just have so much respect for that guy, whether it's racing, whether it's seamanship and cruising, whether it's his knowledge of history. I mean, the guy is the ultimate Renaissance sailor.
And he's quite a climber too.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hey, Peter, where can we tune into that?
So American Sailing Association, ASA.com. You should be able to click on the webinars. It's we call the series Peter Eisler's Web Wednesdays, and just sign up right there on the ASA website. Easy peasy.
Yeah, I checked out the weather one last week. It was really good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, Bedford's Chris is so good. I mean, he's a consummate professional when it comes to making a presentation. So I just press the button and he delivers.
Pedro, you mentioned that you're on Svea, the J-boat down in the Caribbean. That was quite a spectacular video that went viral. What's the aftermath of the two boats? What kind of damage was done?
A lot. That was, as you saw, in slow motion, triple replay and stuff. But the Svea, was surprising because of the meter boat bow, or the traditional bow. It wasn't like a 52 running into another boat. It wasn't a T-bone where the boat sank. We rode right up. But our forefoot, if you imagine the keelson, it was broken. I mean, we were taking on water, and there was daylight holes all the way up where we were ripped up over the side of poor Topaz. Topaz, of course, took the brunt of it, and has some deck repairs and the whole rail repairs, and broke their boom. We feel awful. It's one of those things in sailing, but in J-boat scales, it's big. But Svea is on a barge, or soon to be headed back to Europe to be repaired. And the J-class, I think, just announced that they're not going to go down to New Zealand for that February event that may or may not happen. So it looks like the Jays are headed back to Europe. And Topaz, I'm not sure what their repair is. Well, the only really bad injury was the guy on Topaz that went flying. And I talked to Peter Holmberg recently, and he said he had a second set of surgery, but all was good, and broken ribs, punctured lung. But gosh, it could have been so much worse.
We saw a brief clip there. We saw the Topaz coming up for the line on starboard and the collision. What was going on, Svea? Were you trying to bear off, or were you trying to tack there, or what was the genesis of how it all happened?
We made a pact all together right after the race, obviously for a lot of reasons that we're not going to talk about what was happening.
Okay.
But what we could learn from it, all of us as sailors, is that communication is key. And in the case of boats where we're having a tactician and a helmsman working together in the pre-start, there's times when visibility is not 100%, especially when you're sailing a boat with a big overlapping jib that's eased out and heeled over. And so we're always relying on our teammates, whether it's the guy or girl on the bow, to help us thread the needle. And, this was just a normal port tack, picking our spot to where we're going to tack in the lineup to go approach the line. It's something everybody does every day. And it just shows how important communication is, and practicing. And, unfortunately with the Jays, everything happens a little bit slower, and there's a little bit delay. But suffice to say, our tails are between our legs, and we feel absolutely awful. And, but life goes on, and we're so thankful that only boats, aside from the one guy on Topaz who wasn't injured badly, just the boats were mostly damaged.
Yeah, so it was a good thing it was sort of on the light side, on the breeze side. Otherwise, it could have been a whole different story, eh?
Pedro, just to finish one comment, you and I were on a terrible event on Blue Yankee way back in the Block Island race in May of 2002, and poor Jamie Bokel perished in that. And you and I were on the boat, but you and I both wrote about it in subsequent time, and I think we all learned a lot, and maybe sailing's a little bit safer. So I would encourage you and your group, when the dust settles and a long time goes by, that you do write about it. So, and I'm sure you'd rather get it back if you could. So I respect your comment here, but maybe at some point downstream you can write about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Hey, thanks for that, Peter. And hopefully all goes well out of that one. Ironically enough, my daughter eats popsicles, and I get this, finally the little jokes on the popsicles. Or today's joke was sort of COVID related too as well. What does a boat do when it's sick? Anybody?
It heals.
It goes to the dock. There you go.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah,
Nice.
that one's clean,
That's good.
That's what you can learn off a popsicle stick, Anyway, in this sort of shut-in thing, we've been doing some playing, finding ways to keep entertained. I've been doing some boat work, and sounds like nobody's doing some sailing. But Erik Shampain, our virtual guest, that I don't know if most of you guys know him or not, but he's been sailing. You kind of came in quietly. You're a famous son of a famous sailorman, I suppose, and but kind of made famous through all sorts of one design classes, and wrote a great column for me a long time ago, actually, about sailing with Taylor at the Bermuda Boat Cup, which was it's always one of my favorites, and that was fun. But so you have built yourself into be a virtual regatta expert, and I don't know if you guys should, after this call, definitely go play a game or two. It's like I said, super addictive, and it's fun until you realize that you haven't done anything else all afternoon. But so Erik, you're now a top ranked racer, and I thought you could show us. So let's do a pre-start and a start, and show us how to at least get off the starting line. So when we're off this thing, we can at least not get punted out the back. So
absolutely.
And,
so I need to share screen, and then I can just go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, you go for it. So you can see
the virtual sailing kind of main place there on my screen. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah, looks good.
Perfect. Yeah, I started sailing this a couple years ago, on and off, and then slowly got addicted. And during the shutdown, the number of people playing around the world went from 5,000 to 40,000 or something. And there's clubs and regattas all over the world. I remember like 6 or 7 different clubs that have different regattas at different times. You can create custom races. You can join other people's races. They have a scoring system for their races. It's endorsed by World Sailing, so there's an actual ranking system. There's now actually a world championship that is an actual world sailing championship. It's pretty intense. What I'll do here is I'll just create a race so that we can kind of get right into it. Like any other e-sport, there's extra things you can add on that cost a couple of coins. It turns out it's the equivalent of a nickel a race or something like that. The wind intelligence kind of tells you what the ships are going to do 20 to 30 seconds before it happens. That's absolutely key. Wind shadows. The VMG is very helpful to basically drive in a straight line. Ley lines are helpful. Time to the starting line. I could argue my starts are better without it sometimes.
So you're just creating a regatta now. Do you have to sit and wait for others to join?
Yeah, but there's so many people online that 4 or 5 people probably join right away. And if I were to wait a few minutes, it would fill up with 20. if nobody joins, I can go and just join somebody else's race. I
Yeah.
tested this maybe 10 minutes before the race started, and 14 or 15 people entered right away.
And you have no idea who these cats are.
No, it's real interesting. The mix of people is really interesting. There's quite a number of pro sailors sailing it now, a lot of middle of the road amateurs, and there's a couple of people that are really good that are just gamers that are quite good. There's one guy in one of the international clubs I'm in who's never been on a sailboat, and he was watching the Volvo Around the World race not too long ago, and got really interested, really excited, and then he found Virtual Regatta Offshore, which they were doing a Volvo race. And he basically taught himself to sail, and when the Volvo race ended, he was bored, so he started virtual racing inshore, and 2 years later, he's quite good.
Erik, is there a chat feature so you can talk directly to your competitors?
So there is, let's see, it won't pop up now. There are sort of pre-done after the start goes off, the chat comes up, but there's only 6 or 7 things you can say. You can't tell people off and things like that. It's basically a mix of emojis. As you can see, I got 20 people, and it's just a second. So we'll go ahead and start this. First thing I do just is looking. Can you see my cursor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So looking at the start line, I can tell that the boat end is up on the screen a little bit. And looking at the socks here, we're in the middle of the course. The start is in the middle of the course, and this sock is pretty straight up and down, maybe a slight hint of right. So the boat end slightly favored. You can see that there's darker water on the left, so there's a little more breeze on the left. One of the things I like about this game is it's a bit like real sailing, in that sailing to more pressure, starting at the favored end, finding clear lanes, things like that.
And you got wind shadows there as well. Is that
a lot of wind shadows? Yeah. I'm trying to move stuff around on my screen so I can see, so I'm not quite paying enough attention here.
So Erik, I noticed you're playing on your computer, and you can obviously play on your phone as well. Do you have a preference for which one that you like to use?
I like the computer. I like the big screen.
So that's you with the directional arrow. You're timing it.
Yeah, about to be over early. Yeah. Taken out right away. The other thing that's kind of interesting, just like real sailing, is you can come back from just about anything and finding clean lanes, getting back to the original game plan, that kind of thing. It's sort of all important.
And you can zoom down to water level, but you'd like to watch the bird's eye?
Yeah, so you can play in 2D like this, which I prefer. I can see more of the screen where there's darker water, things like that. I can also play in 3D mode like this. That's cool. And you can kind of zoom around, take a look at the course. A lot of people play in 3D. It's a bit more natural for them. Like you said, you can zoom down to water level out, but I certainly prefer the 2D.
And how many adjustments on the tiller are you making? Do you tap the keyboard, or do you just let the boat sail straight?
I mostly let the boat sail straight unless I'm tacking, or we do a little bit of high, slow, or low, fast, to mode, but not very much.
Are you just using the arrow keys to move the boat, or do you have some other way of doing that?
So it's keys only if you're on a laptop. On the phone or iPad, it's just finger control, swiping.
Nice. A lot of people overstood for you to help you out there, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. A very sliver of a lane here.
Yeah, I like your approach into that top mark. It's looking good.
Should have leaped out him, but that's all right.
Keep it safe. Keep it safe, baby.
Yeah, and so, unlike J-boat racing, you can hit people and it doesn't really matter. You get a time penalty if somebody gets penalty, they kind of shadow, they go blank, and then there's a time penalty. I think it's 10 seconds, something like that.
And when you get onto like the really close boat on boat type stuff, do you find that 2D works better, or like, I mean, it's hard to judge this time, sort of distance to boats and your spacing with them?
In 2D, I find is better. I can zoom in. You can see the game's actually glitching here at the moment. I'm kind of going sideways. So nailed him. It's hard because I have this. I have the bar sort of blocking my gates, but whoa, not paying enough attention. That was a good one. I need to move the bar of all your spaces off the bottom of my screen. But anyway, long story short is, I used to come back to my room after pro sailing and spend a half hour in the evenings in Miami, and I'm just gonna head up and slow up so I don't hurt anybody else's race here. But a year or two ago, I would play. I'd like go to my room, play a half hour, and I just sort of got better and better at it. And they were having a world championship, and the top 1,000 or so qualified. Let's see if I can just stay out of people's way here while I'm chatting.
So is this going to hurt your ranking, having a tough race here, Eric?
No, it's a custom race, so it doesn't affect the rankings. So they have their own scheduled races that you can do for the rankings. And a couple years ago, last year, I was doing really good. I heard they were having a world championship. If you qualified, the top 1,000 qualified for the playoffs, and then the top 8 of that got all expense paid to Bermuda, where they had a legitimate world championship. And I was doing really well, and I thought, hey, I have a chance of qualifying and doing this. And as the world approached sooner, it turned out there were a lot of people all over the world that were really good, and my ranking went from 8th to like 25th or something. And sort of the same thing is happening now. I think I'm ranked 16th or something, which is probably I'm somewhere between 16 and 25, which, with 20, 30,000 people playing, that's pretty good. I haven't quite gotten the star level, like the Sail X back in the day. Steve Hunt, I think, won a couple of world championships there, right, Steve?
Yeah, I was addicted to that game for a long time.
Right.
I ended up being the number one guy in the Hall of Fame, and then the game went away. Actually, my wife made me stop playing.
Right.
and I had kids, and that's why I have not played this game once, because I will get addicted to it.
You'll get addicted for sure. It's hard not to.
Yeah.
I got busted the other night. Wifey was calling me down. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll be down in a minute." She came up, I was like, "Oh, it got busted," Yeah. Anyway,
it's funny. I have for fun, non-scoring. Let me see if I can share. There's so many sites around that help this e-sailing. This is Sail Ranks. This is a USA regatta. It's basically like yacht scoring that most people use. I only bring that up because it proves I actually did win a regatta. But I can't share the other screen. There's servers that we use to communicate, Discord server. So I'm involved in one server where I host a regatta almost every night for about an hour and a half, which just shows how addicted I am. And we don't do any scoring. It's just friends. It's mostly friends from Southern California. Some pro sailors like you guys know are in it. Scotty Dixon comes in here and there, and Steve Nadvig, Riley Gibbs sails with us here and there. And we have a voice chat. So probably 10 of us, have earbuds in, and while we're racing, we're talking, and we're just talking, mean things about each other, and I'm going to attack on you and hitting people on purpose. It's pretty fun. But every now and then in the background, you'll hear one of the guys getting yelled at by his significant other. You're playing this again. So definitely be careful. It's quite addicting. Cool. And like Taylor was saying, Sail GP is on board with this. So there's a bit of there's a number of regattas in the Sail GP. I'll have to do some practice with you, Taylor, and get you tuned up for this regatta you have in a few days.
So what is your current
absolutely?
What's your current e-sailing coaching rate?
I don't have one. It's funny you ask. People are starting to ask a lot, so I suppose I should get one. But at the moment, it's just fun. I love doing it, so I'm happy to help any of my friends out.
Cool. Hey, well, thanks for sharing. That was cool. I suppose by next time we'll,
Absolutely.
all of us will.
I'll keep working on it. I should start writing a playbook.
Ed, how do you think you do in that game?
Unfortunately, I think I do pretty badly. The whole video game thing has stayed off of my radar. The kids have a lot of fun doing it, and I have avoided it because I can see myself never coming out of the room.
So speaking of kids, one of the things I put on our idea list for the day was to talk about the boy and how you raised him to be such a fine young sailing champion. And we don't have a ton of time, but I mean, in hindsight, for parents out there, kids finishing up high school and going off to sail in college, what were some of the I think the more important things you did as a parent to kind of nudge them along and let them do their thing?
Well, thank you for bringing that up. I mean, you're talking about our youngest son, Nick, and of course he has two older brothers, Ty and Max. And in our house, as you can imagine, there was a natural opportunity to go sailing. But the requirement in our house was that you understand boats and the water. We live on the water. We're in Florida. It's all around us. And our requirement for the family is that you had to understand about being outside in boats and around the water. So motorboats, sailboats, rowboats, kayaks, paddleboards, just whatever they wanted to get in was there. And of course, the St. Petersburg Yacht Club has a tremendous youth program in summer sailing and all that. And our kids, all went through that to learn how to sail. And then they stayed at it. Nick has certainly, been an amazing success, but Max and Ty have had a lot of success as well. And I think it's interesting because we would sit around the house and talk about stuff that was going on outside the window. A thunderstorm would come through and we'd watch the flag on the dock and talk about how it was going to blow really hard on the front edge and then it was going to shift and then it was going to die. And, they would watch that stuff and they just picked it up. We'd watch other people that were out in their boats, having trouble when the storm would come and they'd all panic and try to run home. And then 15 minutes later, it would be glassy calm again. And my kids learned that if you got a big storm on the race course, you could capsize your dinghy and just wait. And in a few minutes, it would all go away and you could right the boat and keep going. So things like that were just lucky. And they're just fortunate to be able to have that opportunity. And of course, as we all sitting here know, that the sport is tremendous in how it teaches independence and through all the things that we have to do to prepare and arrive and accomplish going to an event. We have to be able to plan and execute not only on the water, but on shore. You got to be able to get up at the right time and get your lunch packed and get your stuff together and go down to the boat and rig it. And, you got to do all that stuff. And those are lessons that are, they're great for sailing and racing, but they're great for everything we do in life. So, for us, we just put them out there and said, you got to understand the water, you got to understand boats, and they're all still involved in some way in the sport. Even our oldest son Max, who doesn't sail much anymore, he's actually working for Zach Rayleigh, who the Finn sailor that has a company down here in Clearwater, and Max is working for him because of meeting each other through sailing. So. Yeah, it's really cool how it's all going, and we've been very lucky that they all enjoyed it and that they didn't want to just steer off and go some 90 degrees in a different direction.
Did you how much boat work did you encourage them to do on their own boats and just understanding their own rigs and dealing with their equipment?
We never worked really hard on the rig side of things. I thought that would come with a little more age. When they were young sailors, it was more about understanding. A great lesson was you show up at Opti regattas and the people that arrive before you rig their boats and set them up and leave their sails up for 2 hours before they leave the dock. And the sails are just there flapping away. And Chris Snow knows that that's the way that you actually figure out how long cloth lasts. And we had this great episode where we arrived at an event, and I said to the kids, "Hey, listen, you hear all those sails flapping?" I said, "That's just the sound of money flying away, you know." And of course, they were 10 and 11 years old, and they didn't have any concept of what that meant. They didn't care. The money didn't matter to them. And I realized that right away after I said it. So the next day when we arrived and the sails were flapping away, I said, "Actually, I told you the wrong thing yesterday. That's not money flying away. That's boat speed flying away." And my kids never left their sails flapping ever again. They are so amazing that they picked up on that. Ooh, I don't want my boat to go slower. They take their sails, rig them up, take them out of the boat, lay them down, and wait until it's time to go sailing. And to this day, as they watch people getting towed in and out of the race course with their sails flapping away, you know, they just shake their heads, and they know that that's an advantage if you don't do that. Mm. So it's just things like that. You know, it was important to us to always support what they wanted and you know, give them the opportunities to go where they wanted to go. But we also had to guide them a little bit, make sure that they didn't make big mistakes, you know. And from a boat work side, we didn't do all that much boat work. We tended to just, you know, sail with the equipment we had. And I think as they got older, they started to see, you know, when they come to the 52 regattas with me, or they get around to, you know, a lot of the college events that they did, you know, they started to see what was involved there, and that came naturally.
Cool. Thanks, Ed. Nice. Well, we're bumping up against time. Anybody been sailing or doing anything fun? Check in from the corners.
Jonathan?
So we need to hone our virtual regatta skills going forward here.
Yeah, I've been doing a little bit of coaching. They're sailing up in Newport Beach, California. So I went up there yesterday and coached a family in a 420, which was cool. It was great to get back out on the water. I was so happy. You know, you don't realize that your mental health just being locked in a house for a month. I think I've been relatively happy, but I didn't realize how happy sailing makes me and getting out on the water. And so that was amazing. And then watching the Last Dance with Michael Jordan last night that I recorded brought back old memories. But I wanted to say before we leave just about Erik. A lot of people don't know about him. They are now, but I've been sailing with him for 15 years, and we've won world championships together. And he's one of the best sailors I've ever sailed with. And if you sail with him, you make sure the boat that you're on is perfect. And it's the best boat in the fleet. That's something that comes with his style, and he has the ability to make it so. And then he's also an amazing sailor and a great jib trimmer and a great tactician, and he's always really calm. And I probably shouldn't be saying this because he might start sailing with other people, but if you ever get a chance to sail with Erik, he's really amazing and first class. And a lot of people are good at like working on a boat or sailing. He's great at both, and it's really, really a great value. And no wonder he's doing well in that game too.
You got a little interloper over your shoulder there, peeking through the door.
Yeah. Yeah, they're probably wondering when Dad's done so he can play Legos.
Yeah. All right. How about you, Taylor? What are you up to real quick?
I've been doing a lot of workouts. The lady, Stephanie Roble, is pushing me hard in our little garage gym. I've been riding a lot of road bikes lately. I wasn't really into it before the pandemic, but that's something that's been keeping me busy, and I actually find it a lot of fun. And there's actually a lot of cool technique to it. And I'm down there tweaking my bike, and as I would with my boat. So, you know, that's kind of keeping me busy as well, which has been a lot of fun. But yeah, you know, second what Steve said about Erik, had the pleasure of sailing with him. It's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks for being our special guest there, Erik. Appreciate it. And yeah, so we'll if you guys are cool, we'll check in next week, and we'll have an outro with Eisler. Any requests for him?
Okay, you get a choice. You can have a sailing song or a sailing song.
Or give us a nice little original. You got anything?
This is kind of original. So Steve was saying how nice it is to get outdoors. Luckily, an essential activity in California is taking care of your animals. And some of you know that I'm super into horses. So this combines both of my loves, this song. if I had a boat, I'd sail out on the ocean. And if I had a pony, I'd ride him on my boat. Yeah, we would all together out on the ocean, just me and my pony on my boat. Well, if I were Roy Rogers, I'd surely be single. I could not bring myself to marry an old Dale. Be just me and Trigger, we'd go riding through the movies. We'd buy a boat and on the sea we'd sail. Yeah, if I had a boat, I'd sail out on the ocean. And if I had a pony, I'd ride him on my boat. Yes, we would all together out on the ocean, just me and my pony on my boat. Well, the masked man, he was smart, and he got himself a Tonto, because Tonto did that dirty work for free. But Tonto, he was smarter. One day he said, Kimosabi, you can kiss my ass. I bought a boat, I'm going on the sea. Yeah, if I had a boat, I'd sail out on the ocean. And if I had a pony, I'd ride him on my boat. Well, we would all together out on the ocean, just me and my pony on my boat. If I were like lightning, I wouldn't need no sneakers. I could come and go wherever that I please. I'd scare 'em round that shady tree, I'd scare 'em round the light post, but I would not scare my pony on my boat out on the sea. Yeah, if I had a boat, I'd sail out on the ocean. And if I had a pony, I'd ride him on my boat. Well, we would all together out on the ocean. Well, me and my pony, yeah, me and my pony, just me and my pony on my boat. Courtesy of
right.
Woohoo!
All right, gents, thanks for joining in, and this has been fun. Thank you very much for giving some tunes, Peter, and Eric for the tutorial. So I guess we'll see you in the virtual world, and hopefully everyone on the water soon. Like there's you're sailing, Steve. So there's hope coming up, man. I know it's coming. So stay healthy in the meantime.
Yeah, stay safe and healthy, guys.
All right,
Good.
thanks everybody. Have a good week.
Thanks, Dave.
Cheers.